I have much better places that I could film, but I'm filming out of my car today because this girl and I have history, and in a very strange Stockholm Syndrome kind of way, I miss her. It's a rough transition, guys. Really good, but not easy. What's up, y'all? It's Rachel Elizabeth, and you're watching Real Talk with Rach, where we talk about real things because it's real, honest, vulnerable conversations that get us deeper in relationship with others and deeper in intimacy with God. I had two perfectly good places that I could have filmed today that would have made for a higher quality video, y'all, but you know what? This is something I needed to talk about. I needed to talk about the fact that even though everything that has happened so suddenly for me, as far as the end of 17 months of being purposefully homeless, moving to a new country, suddenly having this incredible relationship after years of being single, all of those things, although wonderful, have happened so quickly that it seems as though I haven't had the time, maybe I haven't, to really process that transition. I'm a bit of an internal processor, believe it or not. So when I made these changes, I knew it was because God was leading me in these directions, and I had so much peace about it, but it wasn't because I sat there and analyzed the ups and the downs and made a decision based on tons of time put in processing what that would look like and what that would mean for me, what that would mean for the people around me. I simply trusted God in it, like I have this entire last 17 months of being homeless, spirit-led and missional, but still homeless, where I had to depend on him for literally everything, from a roof over my head, to gas in my car, to all of my bills that I didn't have a job to pay for, to food every single day. Jesus has literally been my daily bread, my sustaining force, my supernatural provision. And just as a side note, he wants to do that for you too, if you will give him the space to prove that he can do that and be that for you. Although don't put him to the test. What I mean to say is, if Holy Spirit is nudging you to do something or say something, do it. If he's drawing you out into deeper waters, trust him and step out. He'll start with little things and then build up to bigger adventures like this one. But if he's asking you, say yes. If you want to have a faith testimony like this purposefully homeless journey, you have to start with the small things. And you have to obey him and trust him in little things before he'll invite you into a place to trust him and obey him with big things. So I've been fully depending on the Lord, and transitioning out of the purposefully homeless journey is a miracle in itself, and it's so many answered prayers. And he's given me a relationship that I've been praying for years. So all of these things that I've gotten in just a couple of months have been absolutely incredible, and I'm so beyond grateful for all of them that I could cry at any given moment talking about them and the goodness and faithfulness of God even now. But let's not neglect the difficulty of the sudden transition, the difficulty of the night and day difference between being homeless and having a home, or being single and only having this precious relationship with Jesus, and then suddenly having your time divided between the Lord and a human being that you love dearly. Let's give ourselves permission to grieve the end of a season so that we can fully embrace and be present in the new season. The picture I'm getting for this right now is having both your hands wrapped around a mug. At the beginning of the season, that mug is empty. And over the course of the season, whatever season that is, however long or short that season is, that mug gets full of really good things, memories and lessons and intimacy with Jesus and all these wonderful things. At the end of the season, there's a transition into a new season, but that requires you to empty out the mug so that you can fill the same mug with good things in the new season. But that emptying out feels a bit like a death because it's change, because it's letting go of something you'd grown familiar with and comfortable with. And even if the new thing is even better than the last thing, it still requires a letting go of the old thing or a pouring out. Now, in my case, we could talk about that being this transition from not having a home to having a home, but I think the harder transition for me is actually transitioning from full dedication and devotion to Jesus as the one and only love of my heart to making space and time in my heart and life for a human romance. I was just processing this seasonal change with a friend of mine, and she reminded me of the passage in 1 Corinthians where the Apostle Paul is helping the church try to understand the sacrifice of transitioning from full devotion and dedication to Jesus alone as a single person to the dedication to a spouse. Your affections have to be divided. I'm going to read you a little bit of 1 Corinthians chapter 7 where it talks about this, starting in verse 32. I would like you to be free from concern. An unmarried man is concerned about the Lord's affairs, how he can please the Lord. But a married man is concerned about the affairs of this world, how he can please his wife, and his interests are divided. An unmarried woman or virgin is concerned about the Lord's affairs. Her aim is to be devoted to the Lord in both body and spirit. But a married woman is concerned about the affairs of this world, how she can please her husband. I'm saying this for your own good, not to restrict you, but that you may live in a right way, in undivided devotion to the Lord. The funny thing is, before I knew this personally, I thought Paul was just being a buzzkill about marriage. Like, most single people I know cannot wait to be married, and they're longing for a spouse and praying for a spouse. And yet, in my experience now, I've found that because I was fully devoted to the Lord, that was the most beautiful thing that I've ever experienced. And now my affections are divided, and while I'm not yet married, and I don't actually know if that is where this relationship will end up, I do know that it's headed that direction, and I do know that my affections are divided. And there's a very real feeling of, I don't know how else to describe it other than grief, at the loss of the ability to devote 100% of my heart and time to Jesus alone. And had I not had these years of singleness, had I not been drawn into a deeper pursuit of intimacy with God, I would have missed out on something so beautiful, something that I wouldn't trade for the world. And yet I trust him in this transition that I'm not trading that. It just looks different. So just like I'm sitting in my car right now because I am struggling with this transition to something much better, I'm also struggling in this transition into something much better relationally. The truth is, because I know that we move from glory to glory, and in pursuing the heart of Jesus, he moves us from one season to the next because he has better for us, because that last season was good, but he has more good in store in the next season. I trust him that he's teaching me a new facet of who he is in this transition, and I'm not losing out because of my relationship status. In fact, what the Lord has shown me in this transition is that he is loving me through my relationship with a man. He gets to love me in a new way, and I get to love him in a new way. And this revelation is unlike anything I've experienced in any past relationship because I wasn't ready. I wasn't in the place of intimacy with Jesus where I could even recognize that this was a new way to love Jesus and not putting Jesus on the shelf to love a human. Our relationships are never supposed to take the place of God, but they're supposed to show us a new side of God, a new piece of his heart. They're supposed to reflect him to the world. And if we're not ready for that, they will take the place of God. And I'm guilty of that in pretty much every single one of my past relationships until now, because he gave me the gift of singleness for so many years. And I'm 35 years old right now, and I'm just now getting it. So let this be a call to intimacy with the Lord if you're single. And if you're already married, let it be an invitation to pursue him as your first love and return to your first love. Because only there will your heart be changed in a way that you will then be able to love your spouse, to love your family in a place of overflow rather than lack. So yeah, I apologize for the terrible location for this video, for the lighting that keeps changing, and the sound is probably not that great either, but I needed this, and I wanted you to see me sitting in this car as a picture or a symbol and a reminder to always remember that God is bringing you from glory to glory. He never takes you into a new season of less of him. The only way you would ever get less of him is if you put other things ahead of him. But if Jesus is the king of your heart, if Jesus is your number one priority, if he is truly Lord of your life and love of your body, mind, soul, and spirit, I promise you, no matter how hard it is, there's only more of him in the new season than there was in the last. I'm excited to find out how much more of him I can find, and I'm never going to stop seeking him. And this feeling of grief is only compelling me to put him as more of a priority than he was before. And so I am choosing to consider it a privilege and an invitation, because Jesus is still and always will be the number one love of my life, and I can't live without him. So take it from me, if you haven't experienced this Jesus that brings you to tears just bringing up his name, go spend time with him, chase him, seek him, look for him in the word, listen for him in your quiet time, sing praises to him throughout the day, pray continually in the Spirit. He's never further away than a whisper, and he's closer than your skin. He's everywhere always, and he loves you so much. Return to your first love. Seek his face every morning, and I promise you, you will lack no good thing. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share it with a friend. If you want to support this ministry in any way, there are links to Patreon and other ways to donate in the description box below. I love you, and I'm praying for you. Have a great week. I'll see you on the prayer call on Sunday. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I want you to tell me one thing. What is your current perception of God? What is he like? Tell me in the comments below.